In the last videos, we have kind of discussed what the internet is, what TCP/IP is, what HTTPS is. Now, something that very important that I recently studied on is basically what's a domain name. Now, I think that's fairly something that we kind of have an idea about, but for the sake of explanation, so for instance, HTTPS www.google.com, right? Now, this part we already know that this is the protocol. This signifies World Wide Web, and now this part is basically your domain name. Now, what exactly is a domain name? Now, for example, we discussed here that any point on the internet can be reached out with something called IP address, right? Now, an IP address looks something like, right? But this is not, human readable. This is not something that you can remember. So how do you remember something like this? So that's why domain names exist. They are more human readable formats of any address on the internet. So now if I say google.com, so this is the domain name, right? And in this, the .com is called a top level domain, right? So if I say something like something like india.gov.in, then .gov is the sub level domain or SLD, and .in is the top level domain or TLD. Now these TLDs are something that are already registered with an entity apparently called ICANN. I don't know what the full form of ICANN is, but yeah, these are registered. Now, how do you get a website on your name, right? Like, can you buy something like google.com? Now, the problem with buying is nobody really owns a domain. Everybody buys a license to own a domain, right? So, basically, you are saying that for a period of 1 or 2 years, I am going to rent out this domain, which will be called something like rabbits.com or rabbits.co.in, and you get this license and you can operate your website on these domains, right? And how do you get these domains? You reach out to somebody called a domain registrar. So from my perspective, I kind of know some of them. GoDaddy, there's Hostinger, there's Namecheap, and these guys have essentially something called servers, and on these servers they take your domain and host the domain, right? So in the next video I'll kind of discuss what hosting is, but to get another insight, so how do you know who what is the domain and who is the registrar of google.com, right? So let's say I go to who is google.com, so you will get something like this, and you will see the domain is google.com. It was registered on 1997, it expires in 2028, and the last update was in 2019, right? And the name servers are these, right? And the registrar at that time was Mark Monitor Inc., or at the time, right? So yeah, you kind of get an information on who the domain is registered by. See you in the next video.